Hello, I'm Mitch Maxwell, principal of Rushoen Middle School. And today we're going to do a training video for you on the ILT. The ILT within our school meets every Thursday. And what we try to do is come up with ways to enhance our instructional practices, which will therefore enhance our students' educational experience and achievement. Today's ILT is going to focus on some areas that we've struggled with as a school, primarily because we have many of our teachers come from alternate tracks of education, as well as they don't have very many years of experience. So today you're going to hear us talking about the Louisiana Educator Portal or Louisiana Educator Rubric, and we're going to be going over some parts of that seem to be a problem for some of our teachers as far as making the highest score they possibly can. So we're working on through that today. We're also going to talk about student goal setting and implementation of LEAP vocabulary into our school campus-wide. So I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, all right, gang, well, welcome back to our first ILT of this second 9 weeks, coming back from fall break. I know everybody had a great break, and it's been a good week so far. We need to do some digging in today into some what's next, according to our ILT schedule, and where we leave off. If you remember, we reviewed and went over the rubric for the first 9 weeks, and finished all that, and began to do observations. Through that, though, I found a few things that teachers still are struggling with in the observation process. I think we got to get that ironed out if we're going to maximize results from our students. So today we're going to review and clarify the formal lesson plan template for observations to understand evaluation expectations and the self-evaluation process. That's a complicated way of saying there's some things that are happening that are slowing the teachers down as far as maximizing their score. There's some things they don't quite understand. I think it's because we have a staff that doesn't have a lot of experience. Yep. Okay. All right. So first, before we even get into the lesson plan, the first thing was accessing the site. You know, we got the instructions from Ms. Hilburn about 2 weeks before the fall break, and we sent out the message to go ahead and try to access it. And each person I've observed so far has had some kind of hang up along the way. Ms. Hilburn sent out the form the other day for you guys to troubleshoot with her anything that comes up. Have any of you been able to access it yet? You have? Are you in? You're good? Okay. And have y'all been granted the permissions necessary? Like it says request something and then you get it. Yours looks different than mine does, so I'm asking.
I'm not saying that it says
okay, request permission.
I'm going to pull it up
okay.
for a second and see if something changed from last night.
Good deal.
Y'all can keep
and the hang up has been like they're getting in, but then they can't access the self-assessment. Yeah, so they're having to do it on paper or track back and go in and put it in later when they get, so that's been kind of one of the smaller hang-ups. But anyway, we'll come back when you pull it up. Now, also before the break, Ms. Polk wrote out this lesson plan template for you guys to use for the pre-conference, okay? And it's been kind of hit or miss. It seems like some people are confused on it. This was designed so that if you answer the questions on there, the pre-conference will go a lot more smoothly and you'll earn more points on the lesson planning portion of the announced observation. Okay? So, that being said, Ms. Polk, why don't you help us go through some of these things on here?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things I just wanted to clarify on this that might help some of the teachers and might help you guys explain to the teachers what needs to be on here. The first thing is under lesson objectives, activities, and materials. It says detailed and sequence with S&T activities labeled and defined. That's their normal lesson plan. Like the student will, the teacher will. The student will, the teacher will. That's them telling everything that they're going to be doing. Okay? Their standards, we should know what those are. Mm-hmm. Okay, their daily assessments, that's going to be their exit ticket. That's going to be what they're doing to evaluate whether the students met the objective or not.
Just real quick, let me interject. Mm-hmm. So back to the student and teacher activities. You know the rubric is student-centered. Okay, it's focused on them. So if they're filling out lesson plans and they're doing their plan and it's a ton of teacher stuff, they're not on the right track, right? For what they want to see in the classroom. Okay, sorry.
And of course, too, one of the things that we're running into is the fact that they are using their objective as the activities. So we want to make sure that we understand that when we are doing these objectives, when they have their objective on here, that's what we are using our success criteria and our assessments to check. It's not the activities.
Right.
And so
Let's just say, okay, so yeah, that's a common thing that less experienced teachers happen to do. So to you, what's the difference between an objective and an activity? Somebody just give me an answer.
Assessment and an activity?
Objective and activity.
Objective is what the student should be mastering.
Mm-hmm.
The activity is what they're doing to get to mastery.
Very good, very good. And the hang up is we're just seeing what we're doing. It's like a list almost in some of these people. So we got to correct that, tweak that a little bit more. The veteran teachers seem to have it down. It's just like I said, some of the more inexperienced people who are in y'all's groups. So you might want to touch base with them, maybe spot check a few things here and there to make sure they're on the right track.
And I wrote one today,
Yep. Okay.
like myself, I made up a lesson plan
Right.
here to see, if there was anything that hung me up or that stopped me. And I will say, once I wrote out everything here, when I got to the second page, because I had walked through all that, this is basically just going through everything that's on the first page. They would write the plan and then go through this checklist and go through this. That lets them know what they're missing or what they need to add for their planning component. That was one thing that I discovered when I was doing it. I was like, oh, if I do this, then if I just go through and check this, that lets me know that I've hit everything I need to hit to get this plan correct. The biggest hang up that we're really seeing though is the success criteria. That when they're going to write the plans, there's what's the success criteria? Okay, that's where we're seeing a big hang up. So that's why we want to make sure that they understand what success criteria is. And we know that it's not going to look the same in every class either. So it does depend on that lesson and the activities and the objective that they're trying to get the students to meet.
So if a teacher is asking us what is success criteria, how would we define that for them?
Well, what I've been doing is I've been asking them, well, what's their objective? What are they trying to get the students to do? And then how are they assessing the students on that objective?
It can look a lot of different ways. If they have a rubric, that's success criteria. You're explaining to the kids how you're going to know you're going to be successful.
So it's like the measurement of mastery.
Yeah, absolutely. In the science curriculum at Amplify, there are statements. I know I have mastered. That looks right. That looks good.
Okay.
Awesome.
Hold on.
Okay.
It is not a no-brainer.
It's
No.
not.
No,
No, you
it's
have to
not.
think your way through it.
Like Clever, you get on that, and like that all kind of comes together real fast. This is more like
She pulled up that part on the
click all
logging
buttons
in.
until something
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
Because that one's
I'm
linked to
sure that's
that.
one of the things Ms. Hilburn wants to know. So if y'all would go ahead and send those things to her, let her know that if you are in the same program with the state, that you're going to have issues. That's going to be a lot of people.
Right.
Because I
That's
looked
gonna
at it and I was
impact.
like, this looks
Yeah.
like
That's
the...
going to
Yeah.
be,
Okay.
Okay.
half or
Good.
75%.
All right. So yeah, thanks for pulling that, Ms. Gregory, and showing us that you did get in.
This is that email she sent.
Yep.
and
Yeah, and I clicked on
If you
yeah.
set up, I bet a lot of people set up the My
Yeah.
LA account.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you do that,
You have to go back
try
and do the other
click
one.
Here,
Yep.
and they either didn't go there or they did, and then it just kind of pushes you around.
Yeah.
And if you don't go up to the right and hit sign in like 3 different times,
Okay.
you're not in there. So
So who hasn't done it yet? Who hasn't done that part of it? Okay. So what if we did this to help people? If you two worked with Ms. Gregory and created like a small little video clip of the sign-in process, and we can edit it out because you're going to mess up because, like she said, it's not just super easy.
Yeah.
And we can show that during TCs. That will go back and solve that part. What's another issue we've seen? And then the final issue, really, that's been represented up is the self-evaluation. Okay. Now, I know we gave you a copy of the form. That you guys all saw that earlier. Okay. And that's what it should look like when you fill it out. And like I said, people haven't been able to access it through the portal, so we've had them do it by hand. The issue is people are treating it like it's a checklist. Instead of looking back at the rubric and using that to evaluate how they've done these things. I'm doing all the new teachers first, so a lot of this stuff is just things that they're confused about. But like they were just ranking themselves a 5 if they had these things in place in the lesson. You know, so I reiterated to them to use the rubric, read through it, and what would you score yourself based on that? That's what this has to be like. Now today I did an observation, and it was much better self-evaluation at the end when she turned it in, much better. You could tell that she really spent time with the rubric and scoring herself back and forth. As a matter of fact, our scores matched up really well all the way through it. You know, even the part of her refinement and reinforcement, we were the same. So that was good. That was great to see that. So that means if you do it and do it right, then you should not be super surprised by how you score. Yeah. Okay. So my question for you guys on this part of the stuff we're going to do today, this is all over the observations. What else do we need to do for teachers to help them be more successful in their observations so that instruction improves in the classroom? What else? Anybody have anything that's coming up?
I think if we did like an exemplar lesson, like video,
Okay.
give details.
Okay.
Not volunteer again.
All right. All right. Well, I mean, we've shown them what it looks like. So when we say we want to give an exemplar lesson and give them details,
On the things that they're struggling the most with.
Okay.
What are the
All right.
two things that
okay.
we're seeing?
Okay. All right. So that will come probably later as we do a few more observations. But the activities and objectives thing, I think you guys can come up with something to do in TCs for that.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Can kind of give like a little mini lesson during the TCs of
Right.
what we need to hit
Right.
on. And we could do that.
You
yeah.
can do that pretty
I
quick and
think
pretty simple.
With everybody that I've sat down and explained it to,
Mm-hmm.
they've been like, oh, okay. Like it's been
Yeah.
like a
Yep.
light bulb.
Yep.
So I think it's just like a refresher that just
Yeah.
needs to be.
You could also you can do like a sorting activity. Really, is what I'm thinking. Like have some examples of objectives listed out, some examples of activities, and have 2 columns
And they
on the board somewhere. They come up and take it as yours an activity or an objective, and have them put it on the board on either side. Something almost like you would in the classroom, and that may show them yet another skill they can use in their classroom.
Exactly.
So,
I love that.
all right, so we'll get that going. You guys are going to make the video for how to log in, okay? And then the self-evaluation part, I just think we're going to have to really hammer in the pre-conference that the self-evaluation is not a checklist. You utilize it with the rubric to score yourself.
A copy of the rubric with a copy of this.
Well, we give them this,
In the
but we definitely could.
pre-conference
We definitely could give them another copy of the rubric. They've all gotten
I've got
one.
quite a few.
But we could do that again, or at least have them on hand,
it's
and you can
intentional, yeah.
reference it to them, so it's connected together. That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Well, and I think sometimes too,
Mm-hmm.
when they're in training,
Yeah.
they're not picking it up because they don't need it right that second.
Right.
So then
Okay.
when you're in the one-on-one or their observation is upcoming, then they have a lot of questions, for the one-on-one.
Now let's shift now to the instructional side of things. Okay, as far as our instructional practices and our student data go. Let's just assume everybody's got the rubric down and we're all ready to roll and everything's going great. We talked about before the holiday break how SLTs would be due soon, and they're due at the end of November. Okay, everybody in this room knows what an SLT is. A lot of your colleagues do not know what an SLT is. Some of you probably already got yours done, or at least set aside to do them. So, first off, let's remind people, what is an SLT?
Student learning target.
Very good, student learning target.
So those are due at the end of November.
Yes.
Does that mean they have to be completed?
No,
Or
you just
start.
submit.
Okay,
Yeah,
got
you
it.
start it. Now, remember, our district initiative says that they should not be that complex this year. It should be more unit-based,
So
like your
pre-test,
pre-test, post-test.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So, it's okay if they haven't done one yet. They're going to start a new unit, and they can do it on that unit. All right? Are there any content areas that we think are going to struggle with getting the pre-test and post-test in?
Possibly in the success strategies.
Okay.
That might be because if we're talking about beginning of the year
Uh-huh.
data, I don't
Yeah.
know how many teachers did that.
Okay.
I don't know if so many of them are actually going to be using that though, because most of them have a core subject,
Right.
or they have another subject that
Okay.
they're.
It would be like the one here on A wing that we have would be the one you'd have to
Yeah.
to look at
We
with
can
that.
just- I can sit down with her, but
Right.
I think she's got her data already lined up anyway.
Yeah, she was talking about them before she went on leave.
Yeah, I used Lexia last year for my SLTs
Mm-hmm.
because we did it for the RTI Flex. And so, of course, the group I chose and the goals I set were a little bit more rigorous. But we could look at mine and maybe scale it back as an example. That might be helpful.
We could offer that.
Just start
Yep,
there.
certainly
Yeah.
could, certainly could.
Reinvent the
Yep.
wheel.
Yeah, I like that.
If I taught a success,
The components of Lexia.
absolutely.
Yeah.
If I taught a success strategies class, I would look strongly at the create my SLTs based on what's in there because there is so much data in the whether iReady or the Lexia. Yeah. Okay. Now coming off the SLTs, the next thing that needs to really be happening is student goal setting. A teacher approached me on Monday and said, "Mr. Maxwell, I want you to know I'm starting goal setting with my kids." I said, "Okay, good." She said, "I think I'm just going to punish them and make them see where they are." Well, that's the wrong mindset to have with goal setting. And I told her that. You know, I also told her you probably should have done this in August. But that's okay. There's still time. And with SLTs coming up, I think student goals tie in very nicely with that. Okay? They have to know where they are to figure out what they need to do to get where they want to go. And if we're not giving them that information, we're doing them a disservice. Okay? Let's talk about goal setting in math. Okay? What are you doing now, and what have you done in the past?
Oh gosh, in the past, I don't know. But,
Okay.
what we're doing now is we, especially after the first 9 weeks, we've
Yeah.
really gotten, some of the students didn't wind up where they thought they should be because the new curriculum
Right.
is different for them.
Grade wise at the end of the 9
Yes,
weeks? Okay.
Their
Okay.
final thing.
Yep.
So, we looked back at that and we have a sheet that they filled out that they said, this is the goal, this is what I made.
Mm-hmm.
This is the grade I would like to make, and
Sure.
what am I gonna have to do
Okay.
to do that. So every day they're writing down what their score was for the day, so they know, what did I do my work in class? Am I trying to reach the goal that I'm set forth for myself?
Okay.
And
All right.
so they can kind of keep track of it, and they know on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so they know day to day where they are. Okay.
At
How
least
about,
week by week. So
yeah.
yeah.
All right. How about social studies?
For mine, it's kind of hard to do with just the unit type work, but
Right.
what I push is writing because when we first get them, you know, with constructive response and the primary source analysis things, I maybe can get 2 or 3 sentences out of the beginning of the year, and we really need like 3 to 5 paragraphs. And so I, you know, go on to writing with them and kind of give them examples and show them kind of what I'm looking for and
Right.
what I would accept
Right.
as, you know, a 3, 4, 5, and kind of build on that. And so
Okay.
that was one of my SLTs last year.
Yeah.
It was really good. And the kids, you can tell towards the end of the year that they were writing better and they were excited about being able to, hey, I got 6 paragraphs. So I think that was important for, you know, for testing time, you know, to get that ready. So that's what I would do
Right,
in social
right.
studies and suggest the others do.
How about science?
For goal setting for science, we've been doing a little of for the unit though, we've been doing it, the chapter test
Okay.
for each chapter. And then if they get I think a 80% or higher, or maybe 75% or
Right.
higher on the chapter test, then they get to color in the little box.
Okay.
We keep track of each class, and they get
Good.
to color in, and then when they get to chapter 2, we have a chapter 2
Okay.
test, then a chapter 3 test, and then at the chapter 4 is the end of unit test. So
Right.
they get to keep track. If they pass all the chapter tests, and I tell them, hey, that's letting you know that you should be able to pass the end of unit test by
Right.
the time we get to the end of the unit.
Good.
If not, then we get a chance to go back and kind of, it helps me to see
Okay.
which ones I need to pull and kind
Right,
of,
right.
you know, work with
I
on
got
the
you.
chapter. Because like I told
Before you
them,
get to the end of the unit.
yeah.
I got you. I like that. That's good. So they do they set an individual goal, or is the goal just to pass the unit test?
To pass the unit test, we haven't got as far as the.
Okay.
you know,
Because I would like to look more at individual goals.
Okay.
Because for some kids, just passing the test is not
Yeah.
a lot of rigor in that.
Okay.
It's kind of lower. All right. Let's see. We did ELA. So I know this is your first year with us, Ms. Gregory. Have you looked into any kind of goal setting in your room at this time?
I have thought about it.
Okay, well, that's
and
good.
I've done that every other year in high school.
Right.
We set goals, but
Well, let's talk about that. What does that look like in high school?
In high school, it was a little bit more intrinsic in the sense that they had
Yeah.
athletics and college scholarships, and there
Right.
was just a lot more that they could absorb that was real life for them.
Sure.
That in middle school, it's like, okay, Jolly Ranchers.
Okay. Yeah, I got
gotta
you.
think
I
back
got
to,
you.
like,
I got
okay,
you. As far as you mean, as far as incentivizing it.
Incentivizing it, yeah, and so, but I think their goals right now really relate to what they see themselves doing in high school.
Okay.
Like we have
Yeah.
kids that do want to go to college, that definitely want to do that. So I think it's kind of a
Right.
breakdown of like
Right.
whether you think college or career, you
Yeah.
definitely need your high school diploma. And then when you get to high school, socially they are concerned about like, I maybe don't want to be in T9 because my friends aren't going to be in T9.
That would be great.
That kind of thing.
Yep.
So I think goal setting in 8th grade looks like for ELA is like, what kind of grades do I need to get
Okay.
to keep myself, and then also like testing out Alexia. There's kids that just need to work,
That's it.
and they need to get out of there so that
do.
then they're better for the leap. Their scores reflect, and they can be placed in the proper place. They're
That's
just,
right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. That's it.
Their LEAP scores are going to determine that T9 status.
Yeah.
That's
leap
it.
scores do,
Yeah.
yeah, and
That's an important conversation to have with 8th graders. It
right.
really
And
is.
so I think they need to be challenged academically, yes,
Okay.
but they may be like they might know what they want, but they don't know how to get there. So it's really
Okay.
more goal setting of like, what positive changes can I make about like
Right.
moving the classroom.
Okay, well, that's good. And some of these, y'all, they're not really academically specific. Some of these things you guys are telling me. We're wanting to look at where are they at right now. Like where are they on the? What is the LEAP test? You had social studies didn't have a LEAP test last year, so you guys are kind of floating around out there. But the rest of the content areas did, and they all got a score, and they all know where they are, and that's where the state sees them. And the state sets that goal for improvement of how much they should improve each year. Okay, and guys, VAM came out, and I haven't gotten to you guys about VAM yet, but it's based on them meeting that goal. Okay, so how do you meet a goal if you don't know what it is? All right, and not everybody has the same goal. Now you don't want. Now some kids score unsat and they're very low. Okay, and their goal from the state is still in the unsat category.
But it's still higher than what it was.
Yeah.
But that's a hard pill to swallow. I wouldn't want to have an individual conference with a kid and say, "Hey, man, I just need you to be a higher unsat."
Yeah.
You know.
It was
come up
we did
with-
that with iReady. They had
Yep.
that data sheet.
Yeah.
And so whenever I was looking at it, I was like, I don't know that they're going to totally grasp the concept that we're improving.
Right.
But you're
Right.
still not
Where you
going
just
to
Still in
look
the
any
red,
better.
yeah.
I mean, like that's so
Yeah.
that was
Well.
we started to have the conversation. So what we're doing with the iReady, we put
Yeah.
up, I put up charts in my room,
Mhm.
and that for whatever reason they really like stickers.
Yes.
And so they're getting to put those stickers
Mhm.
as they complete their iReady because
Good.
they didn't all
Good.
do iReady
No.
like they should. So that,
Right.
that also affected their grade.
It did.
Remember how we said you had to do iReady?
Yeah.
We weren't joking.
Yeah,
Because
we're not playing
we were
around with
really
it.
Serious about it. So
That's good.
they like getting those stickers.
So, one part of this we have to do, guys, is we have to talk to them about their LEAP scores and what they have to do to improve. If you're not comfortable having the conversation about the band, that's okay. Talk about the score. Talk about it in those number forms. Hey, you scored this. We just need you to get 25 points higher this next year, or wherever the goal is for the state. Okay, and talk about that state goal. Don't set anything astronomical. And you'll also find that on the high end, it's the same issue as it is on the low end. You may have an advanced kid, and their goal is to just be advanced again. So, and it may just show them a little bit of a range of what they're supposed to do to go into. So, it kind of can swing the other way on that. So, if we're going to do student goal setting, and we're going to make sure that we're talking about those LEAP goals, get them where they need to be or higher, don't you think we need to use LEAP terminology?
Yeah.
Okay. Are any of you doing that yet?
Yeah.
Okay, you are. Good.
Yeah.
Because I'm not seeing it in the observations I'm doing. So it's not permeating campus wide yet. Okay? So, what do you think the holdups are?
In math, I know that there was a statement or two made that they didn't feel like that was setting the students up for like the real
Yeah.
world, like
Yeah.
because when we talked about changing the math score bands or
Yeah.
whatever, if they didn't make an A, then they really.
Okay. Well, even backing off of the bands.
I know.
Yeah. Even backing off the bands. Can't you talk about an A like it's advanced and a B like
Yes.
it's
That's how.
Mastery?
Yes, that's how we have it set up now.
yeah, and a C like it's basic? I mean, and use those terms, so at least it's the same terminology so that they have a general understanding of what that is. I mean, all right,
Yep.
I won't fight you too much on the deal about that right now, but with the score bands and all that stuff. But we got to use those terms so that they mean something.
What about for their success criteria?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that
Yes.
be part of your
Yes.
success
Mhm.
criteria?
Yes.
Is
Yes.
undersat, basic, mastery, and
Mhm.
advanced.
Like a certain
Yeah.
percentage added.
Yes.
I will. Okay, so maybe we tweak it a little bit more. So instead of saying, "I know I have mastered this da 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 da," whatever is objective, I will be in the advanced level according to this objective if I do these things, and then mastery on these things, basic on these, yeah, or whatever. I wouldn't go below basic on showing them what they need to do. You want them at least at that level, maybe not even below mastery, because don't forget.
Sheet up in our room
Yeah.
that says like on the unit test, like who all scored in
Yeah.
advanced on the unit test, who got mastery
Yeah.
on the
Yes,
test, who
that's
got
what I-
basic, and I don't do anything lower than that.
No.
They get to see,
Right.
because you don't want to like embarrass
Well,
them,
yeah.
but you make that creates something for them to
Yeah.
shoot for because they want their name on that list.
Right. Well, I mean, you can break it down where you don't have to put their names on it. You can just break it down by their score band, advanced, mastery, basic, approach, and basic, and unsat, and just put how many of each one you had in that classroom. And set a class goal for the next test. Okay, if we only had 2 advanced this time. Next time we're going to have 4 advanced, or we're going to have 6 masteries, and we're going to, and set it like that.
That needs to be our goal,
Yeah.
our conversations
Yeah.
with them for growth
Okay.
is in that terminology.
Okay.
And I have had a lot of success with mine with our tests
Mm-hmm.
and stuff because I do the you scored basic, mastery,
Right.
advanced, whatever. But to also tell the students how many points away from mastery they were.
Yes.
So if I have a
Yes.
kid score 77 on a test, I'm like, you were 3 points away from a mastery, and then it's like, I'm only 3 points. I can do this.
Right.
And I had kids that have
Right.
got F's straight across all of their report card that got mastery on their most recent test because they knew what they had to do.
It's
So.
attainable and achievable.
So even breaking it down further, because we're looking at like the achievement level, and we're talking about, okay, how close we are. We look at their LEAP scores and where they stood at the end of the year, and, we're gonna have data along the way, but looking at the subcomponents of each test. So an example would be, and this one just comes to mind, is like modeling and application on the math LEAP. Okay, so that you put their scores in and you know what they made in each subcomponent. How close were you to the next thing?
Right.
What thing do you almost have, or you kind of like on the edge, the bubble with, that you could work individually on that one skill to grow? And then what does that look like if you didn't move anything else but you moved that one component? And that breaking it down into even a smaller bite for them to give them a focus on something, and and then that's an individual goal at that point. And then maybe tracking that on a sheet or a graph, but having them do it, because you already know what standards meet those components, and it translates back to the LEAP test. And then when they get there, they know, okay, I've improved on this. If I go in there with these skills I've been working on individually, then I know I'm going to move. Even if if I was 20 points in this category, but I was only 3 or 4 from this one, and I know if I do this and this, it's going to move me. At least I have that confidence.
All right, so what I want us to do is there's inside your packet she gave you, there's a brainstorming topic sheet, okay? With your shoulder partner. Let's go ahead and do it this way. Let's go ahead. You got your shoulder partner over there. Miss Bumpus, if you'll work. Miss Bottom, if you'll work with Miss Cole, and you two here, and we'll work together on this. Okay. All right. What I want you to do is to develop a plan or come up with an idea of how we can implement LEAP terminology into these classes a little bit better.
So if they are, maybe if they're at a low basic on LEAP last year, and if their average is staying around that point, then you know you're on track. Yeah. And if they're
It wasn't the easiest.
we keep
But there's actually.
You're already doing this stuff. We're just asking you to do it in different terms that will impact learning across the board. That's all we're doing. And, I mean, it's not like it's complicated vocabulary. It's not.
Because
So,
they're
yeah.
still achieving the same thing.
Right.
For his over there, it's like 75, whatever. So all he has to do is say, okay, if you get this, then you're going to
That's it. That's it. That's all you gotta do.
There's, if we could offer them, he's like, that's what I was saying. I don't want to keep overloading them with things
No.
they have to do.
No.
We could tweak what they're already doing.
Right. Yeah.
Or if they're not doing something,
Right.
we could give them something simple to
Right. Kind of briefly, group to group, about some of the ideas that you may have came up with to introduce this terminology to our students and embed it in our instructional practices. So let's start. We'll start with Miss Bala and Miss Cole.
I don't know that we talked about that.
Okay, well,
Okay.
and we
may have.
Yeah.
kind of went on over a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Really, it's just making sure that the teachers are using that language.
Yeah.
Because we kind of discussed, even at the start when we were rolling it out, and we were
Right.
like, hey, you need to talk to them in these terms.
Right.
We also kind of coupled that with so many other things that we were introducing.
Right.
We just feel like it's not a reticence on the teacher's part if
No.
they're not implementing.
Right.
It's just we might need another reintroduction. Like, hey guys, this is the language that we expect for you to use. Here's how we want you to talk to them about it. Maybe resend
Okay.
out. Rana had that scale that she shared. Do you know what I'm saying? Just
Yeah.
just like a hey, remember, this is what we're doing, just in time for them to use it, because I think that front loading that we did was also front loaded with a myriad of
Right.
other things.
Yeah.
So then people kind of gravitated to the things that they felt good about and started implementing
Right.
those just to get up and running. And so
Yeah.
now I think if we say, hey, okay, remember this, and it partners so well with our SLTs and our, our goal setting for kids. So
Right. Well, the first quarter of the year is all about setting up your systems within your school. And the second quarter is all about tweaking those systems to benefit the students. And the third, you're rolling into the mastery phase of the year. In the fourth year, you're finding out the end results. That's why it's quarter by quarter. We finished the first quarter, we're solid. Off to a good start. Now heading into halftime, we've got to make sure we maintain that lead. Okay, that's kind of how you have to look at it. Okay, right here. That's great.
We talked about using anchor charts for grades.
Okay.
Or we probably already have it visible, like a 90 through whatever is an A, this
sure.
is to a B. And so just using it and taking it to this is advanced, this is mastery,
Okay.
this is basic.
Right.
Yep.
And do you think it'd be beneficial for on your assessments? You talked about them in those terms instead
Yeah.
of A, B, C, D?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. About how many kids in the class were advanced, how many kids in the class were mastery?
Yep.
Yep. On each assessment.
Yeah.
And if your assessments are rigorous enough, then that should mirror your result at the end of the year. If the rigor's there. All right. Let's see. How about you?
Our biggest thing that we discussed was really explaining, because we have so many new teachers on the
Yep.
social studies team, really explaining what those performance bands are, really kind of making sure that they understand how this
Right.
works. Having them go back and look at LEAP data. Some of them may not even know
Right.
how to access their LEAP data. I
Okay.
know we don't have anything from last year, but we could pull our third and fourth and, at least give us a stepping stone there and kind of get going to give us something to go by.
Well, I would think in social studies, with a new curriculum and everything and no tests from last year, I would work this unit by unit.
Go unit by unit. Okay.
Yep. Just to get through this year. The next year, I think you'll be like everybody else.
Okay.
That's the way I prefer to do that one. So you set a unit goal for each student. Let them set their own goal for the unit, where they want to be. And then explain to them what that means to be there. And then progress monitor along the way, because you'll do your smaller tests before you do your unit test at the end. And show them, look, you've got to get all these things mastered before you get to this. If you want to be advanced on the American Revolution unit that's coming up, you got to do all these things before you get there. I think that's kind of...
helps you when it's time
Yeah.
for the leap, because you know what's important and what's being assessed.
And what they haven't got.
And
what
just
they go
basically, I've
for.
got to make sure
Yep.
they even know what progress monitoring is.
Yeah, I know.
Some of them are, they're
You've
they're
got
not
you've
an
got
education degree, and so
no,
they're
you've
not
got
really
you've got a
familiar with
baby
those
group of
things.
teachers. You
So,
do. They are very young and very
have to show them how to bring it into the
inexperienced.
classroom. So, yeah.
They do. Before I get to you guys, electives. That is such a broad scope. What does that look like?
I think just backing up what we're doing in the core classes.
Okay.
If we're trying in the core classes to use the LEAP bands versus the grade,
Right.
then continue it and
Good.
say, okay, this is what I'm expecting on mastery of your art project. This is how I'm grading you, and that's when those rubrics are important. And same with
Absolutely.
STEM, your engineering projects. This is what I'm looking for, and this is what your mastery is going to look like. And here's
Right.
And maybe even writing out the scale, and instead of having the grading scale in the classroom, saying this is advanced is this and basic is this or whatever. So,
Can you use these terms in PE?
why not?
I don't see why you couldn't.
Absolutely. What way could you use them in PE? What kind of units could you do in PE that you could use this with?
I mean, you could do it with, they're doing the basketball unit right now, so I mean,
Sure.
are we meeting those skills that are in the standards,
So we have to figure out how many
There's
left-
dribbling standards.
how many left-handed
there's,
layups you gotta make to be advanced
Passing
and-
standards, yeah.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
How would you
They
quantify it?
use the pacer too.
That was a
Basic,
painful
yeah.
era in my life. I'm just gonna say basketball.
I would say she's on the right track there. It's probably easier with where you already have data built in. Like the pacer has the age qualifier for how many they should do for their age. And I would assume that would be basic if they met that number.
yeah.
Okay, and master would be X above, and advanced would be X
Okay.
above that.
I gotcha.
Same thing if it's weight training,
Yeah.
You get a baseline, then you work off that to improve.
They are.
Yep, something like that. And that's probably how you do most of the sports, I would think. We start off with a baseline of what they know.
Yeah.
All right, you just finished the archery unit, so how would you do it in archery?
That's a really good question. Well, I mean, I need to know if there's 11 steps, or are they, performing those 11 steps as
Right.
they go through and they're actually shooting, So I would probably base it off that. Are they getting those 11 steps, and probably quantify it off that.
Okay,
So-
good. See, there's ways really to do it in almost any class, anything. There shouldn't, not there won't be pushback, but there's always an answer as long as we're willing to accept it. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. How about you guys?
We talked about getting a possible school-wide poster going,
Mm-hmm.
created it in Canva and just making it visible not only to the teachers but for our students, so it can become
Okay.
part of their vocabulary,
Good.
their daily lives.
Yeah.
'Cause if
Alright.
you don't see
Yeah.
it, I mean, you're not going to be reminded.
Right. Ms. Polk?
And we were talking about too, like, NTC's talking to these teachers and finding out what they are using for success criteria, and then just kind of helping them tweak the vocabulary to, instead of 75% or whatever, well, that's mastery and that's basic, and then they can just have that. And so we're not throwing something else new at them, we're just tweaking something that they already have in place to make it
Good.
more
Yeah.
simple for them. Yeah, and that was another thing too, just the posters and having it kind of a school-wide initiative, even in the bathrooms.
Right. There you go.
Yeah.
I think that's important. You got to understand, this is not just one more thing. This is an important thing. This is part of who we want to be as a school. Successful schools I've been in before that had higher achieving scores, this is what they do. They prep for the game, the leap, all year by making sure their kids know it's serious. It's their version of the state championship. Okay, they have to get there.
It should
Yeah.
be a positive thing.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All working
You do all this hard work all year long. You get there, you already know what's going to be on it. You're going to do great. That's kind of has to be the mindset we shift to. Okay, Ms. Nucio, you and I talked a little bit, and you showed a chart that you had created earlier. Talk a little bit about that. What that would do for people.
So, this would be taking their LEAP data
Okay.
and breaking it down into all of the subcomponents by content area. So all the math, the ELA, science, social studies. And then you start off with the baseline data, whether it's a diagnostic or a LEAP, and you put in there that score, and then you track it with interims, or you could do it with unit tests if it directly relates to that. But then they can see if they're growing in that component. And we talked about it not being overwhelming and having every subcategory, but maybe looking at what are the weaknesses of the school, or the areas that will make the biggest impact all over, and just using a couple of the subcomponents and tracking those all year. But that would be a way to set individual goals, keep it tracked, the kids know where they are. We can conference with the students pretty easily and say, are we growing? Are we working toward, are we growing toward the goal? Or do we need to do a little bit more work? And so the numbers are there, but the student also has to say, to meet my goal, I will. And that could actually change. If they're meeting the goal, okay, well now we've met the goal here, but maybe we can work on something else, that could change. So it's an actual living document, but it's keeping track of really the LEAP and as it relates to the overall school goals and what we need to do.
Okay.
And a lot of the things that we were talking about, like we were talking about a component of the ELA test. you're doing that in science, social studies, and math. So if we're all working toward that, it's going to have an impact on the subcategories of all of the content areas.
Good, very good. All right, so now how do we implement all these things?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so we got to decide what our focus is going to be moving into the next few weeks, okay? So we're going to wrap all this up in a beautiful picture. You guys are going to work on that video you're going to make with the step-by-step process of how to log into the new system.
Okay.
All right. Can we have that ready to roll for next Tuesday?
Yeah, we're gonna do it Friday.
Good.
Yeah, we
All
can
right.
do it
Good.
tomorrow. Yeah.
All right. Good. That needs to come out soon. All right. If we need to get that going, get it sent out to your people. And do you think it's best just to share it out school-wide, or do you think you need to meet with them and show it to them that way?
I think we could share it out school-wide, but then we need to at least
Yeah.
talk about
Follow
it in
back up.
TCs
Okay.
and
All right.
that.
Okay. All right. So maybe you could show it in TCs if they can share it out school-wide first. Okay.
And just like a, hey, who's not in yet?
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
is everybody in? Log in while we're here. It takes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That could be the TC step.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Lesson plan format. You're just gonna go over it again in TCs. Okay. Activities and objectives. Talk. It's really the inexperienced people.
Yeah, we're
Just
gonna
talk
do
to
the
them.
activities. We're
Yep.
just gonna
Do that thing like I said.
matching thing.
Matching thing. Yep. All right. And then self-evaluation. That's just a simple conversation again. And Ms. Nucio is probably right. We probably need to, in the pre-conference, give them a copy of the rubric to go with the self-evaluation sheet so they understand they go together. It probably needs to be stapled together so that they, oh yeah, these are the same piece. All right. Those are all simple. I think all that can be done next week. Okay? All right. Now, the next part, the instructional practices and data. The SLTs, they have until the end of November to get them in. If you look in the packet that you have, Ms. Polk put in an acceptable form of what it can look like. Ms. Polk, you're going to share that out electronically, right?
Yes.
Okay. And they're going to talk about that in TCs.
Yes, and that will be one of our TC focuses, especially for
Yes.
our newer teachers.
Absolutely.
Who have not
Okay.
filled this out before.
And the student goal setting and LEAP terminology, the next two components. All right. So that's the heavy part is these last two. The LEAP terminology and the student goal setting. That needs to go through TCs first, okay, to make sure that we're all on the same page. This is going to be up to you guys in the content areas to follow up with people on where they are with this and the process. And we'll obviously check in too, but you have individuals who are going to have specific issues within the content. So next week, let's just make sure our focus is on those, finish up the observation stuff you need to do, and we'll come back and revisit about that. But at next week's ILT, I want to then, step by step, come up with a plan for implementation of goal setting in each content area, okay? And a generic one for electives. All right, so be thinking on that. And next week that's going to be developed. And then we're going to roll that out. It's going to include LEAP terminology in the goal setting format. And my goal is for by the week of Veterans Day for this to be implemented school-wide. Is that too
That
aggressive?
is mid-November.
November 15th.
Yes,
Yep.
middle.
It's due.
Second
Oh,
week of
that's
November.
like
We're in
November
Okay,
15th.
Yeah.
all
Around
right,
then.
good, good. Then from there on out, it's just tweaking, okay? Any questions? All right. Well, any concerns? Yeah, that's a good time to ask. We're on camera. Yeah, it'll be a good time to work things through. All right. Well, you guys did a great job today. I appreciate your support and coming to these and sitting through it and working together. So next week, what's happening? Somebody remind me what's happening next week. I get old and I forget. What are we doing?
Honors assemblies are next week.
No. I'm talking about actually like in school. Like, those focus areas we're going to cover next week in the
Our
TCs.
video.
Yep,
The
video.
setting of
That's
the
right. Got that.
LEP.
Good.
Going over some, like the self-evaluation.
Gotta get
some
that.
Of the
Yep.
notes on the rubric, lesson.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so all that's going to be covered in TCs next week. How many TCs are we having next week? How many days? 2 days.
2 days.
So in 2 days of TCs next week, back on that for a little while till we get this tweaked out, okay? All right, and then come into the SLT process. Again, next Thursday, we'll be back on that. She's going to show them the format. But they're not going to be ready for it this week. We know that. But it would be good if some of you veterans already have yours in. You can get with her on that so that you can use them as exemplars in the TCs as we move forward.
So you want us to have just one of these for any lesson filled out?
Well, that's not the SLT.
Oh, the SLT. Okay. I have
This is the
yes.
SLT. Okay. All right. So yeah, if you can fill one of those, that'd be great. Bring that and have it for your people. Guys, anything else? Any feedback from parents? Grades came out this week. No? Well, that's a
They
shame.
weren't,
All right.
people call me, they weren't happy, like, I had a few.
You did?
I did.
Okay.
But,
Well,
I mean, it wasn't anything like, that wasn't
Yeah.
manageable, but they
Okay.
just, what can I do, what can my
Right.
child do to get better so they don't.
good.
You know,
Good.
it was-
Good.
And I
It
think
was
that's
good
what-
conversations.
Good.
And I think that's what one of mine was. So I said after school or Saturday.
Yeah.
So,
Good. So I was going to say, keep pushing that. We have the after school program Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we have Saturday school. Keep pushing that to those kids and those parents. And we won't be overwhelmed. We don't want 100 kids up here on Saturday morning. But we'll help who we can help for sure. Okay? All right. They do need to do their homework. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank y'all so much. Have a great evening. Tomorrow's Friday.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.